Now let's get the show on the road. As part of efforts to achieve a credible election, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has given assurance that only the votes cast by Nigerians will determine who wins the 2019 elections. In other words, if you're planning to rig, just banish the thought.
You're planning to import foreigners
to come, but if they're not on the registry, if they register, they're not going to be able to vote.
Amen.
Are they? Oh, you're very skeptical. The commission also says that it will produce ballot papers in Braille so that blind persons above the age of 18 will also be able to vote unaided.
Interesting.
The commission also stated that it was ensuring that persons with disabilities were not disenfranchised this time around.
I know, this is interesting.
Very. We're moving forward.
Worry, I'm not skeptical.
I'm excited. Forward.
We're moving forward. Braille, those living with disability, able to vote, exciting times.
I only hope that those with disabilities were confident enough to go and register in the first place.
No, they still have space. They still have some space to do.
So in other words, if you have a disability and you're over 18, please go and register. INEC is making special arrangements so that you will be able to vote.
Yeah.
Good. Now, let's look at this together. And joining us is a legal practitioner, Mr. Chima Naji, and he's with us in Lagos. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
We have a social commentator who's joining us from our studio in Abuja, Mr. Ezenwa Nwago. Good morning. And thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Good. Now let me start from the bird that I have in hand. Mr. Naji. Now, what does all this mean to you? Only the votes cast will determine who becomes, who wins. The disabled are going to be able to vote. Do all these point to the fact that we're going to have better, fairer, more credible elections?
Well, that is the expectation. And that's what ought to have been ab initio. But what ought to be may not necessarily appear to be happening, or what is, as the case may be. And there are a lot of interruptions in the Nigerian situation.
Interruptions?
Interruptions, yes. A lot of, if you like, in the computer science, they say garbage in. You know, there are some fraudulent garbage ins. And so the garbage out never turns out to be the puristic garbage out you probably may have envisaged. And some of them are so deliberate. You know, one can understand if adulteration could come by sheer inadvertence. But when it is planned and programmed, the outcome is certain for those who had done that. Coming to your question, we know where we have been and where we are still coming from. It's not yet Uhuru too. We have had assurances by those who have the responsibility to do the right thing. And it is not expected that such authorities will say otherwise. Even if they have a decrepitating problem, they will still hope. They say it's like lily, it never dies. So the right words, the right messages are being sent out. But those who are close watchers of the system will know that what made the baby cry on Monday is still there on Friday evening. So the baby will continue to cry.
when you say what made the baby cry on Monday was still there on Friday evening,
Yes.
Can we break it down? Are you implying that there are some things from the previous elections that have not been dealt with as we go towards 2019?
In the metropolitan areas, you could still see how difficult it has always been for elections to be conducted free and fair. On a level of, on a scale, you might say in some areas there would appear to be less of those problems. But in some locations, they are structurally endemic, no matter what you do. The only thing is that it is always said that where you are popular, where a candidate is popular, he can rig and do anything, because if there's nobody to complain, you know, there's no problem, because there's the saying that if the head of goat is inside goat's bag, it can never be declared missing because it is within his bag. So if a politician is popular in a particular location and the election turns out the way the people who voted expected, there will be no complaint. Then it's free and fair, ordinarily. But the free and fair election we expect is even if the popular politician have not done the right thing and somebody else have done the right thing, he should be able to upturn the expectation that the politician that has been known must come out.
We've been joined by another legal practitioner, Olashukba Ojo. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning.
We'll go quickly to Abuja studio, Eze Nwagu. Mr. Nwagu, the situation... Mr. Anaji talked about some things that have not been taken care of from the previous elections coming into this election might be a challenge. Do you agree with him?
Well, I think that the election is a process. So when you engage in a process, you keep reviewing things, you keep enhancing the process, you keep making it better. One thing that we will not take away is that we've made incremental progress in our elections. If you remember, coming from 2007, what it was that even the winner of that election came out to say, "Thank you very much, I'm the winner, but this is really not what an election should be," which led to the setting up of the Justice Waste Committee for Electoral Reforms. And then towards 2011, we've made some progress. We introduced the PVC and the smart card reader, which in some sense became a game changer. We've also upped to a certain level the fact that today we're not having the periodic CVR that we used to have that will last for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then that will be it. We're battling with the challenges of having a truly continuous voter registration exercise. Those are progress that we cannot discountenance. But be that as it may, in the pyramid of election, INEC occupies the topmost place there. But INEC alone does not conduct elections. There are the role of security agencies, the role of the political parties and their agents, the role of the voters and observers as well. So all of this mix will give you what could turn out to be credible election. But dealing with some other issues, the colleague in your station talked about the fact that the popular person, is not possible for you to have malfeasance in election without collusion of these different stakeholders at every point in time. If the security agencies look the other way, if the political exposed persons within the community, if the communities themselves agree to share votes according to who is more dominant and all of that, then you are not going to have the kind of elections that we look forward to. First and foremost is to begin to deal with that community conspiracy, to unpack it and come to a point where we are able to say, look, allow elections to come, let the actual desire, let the actual aspirations of voters reflect in the outcome of elections. But we know that even if you have institutional mechanisms that guarantee free, fair, credible, acceptable elections, that once you have collusions of security agents, you have collusion of the voters, and you have collusion of the institution itself, then you have, by that itself, dealt a very deadly blow on any thinking for credible elections. So there is a work in progress. All the different stakeholders will have to come to some reasonable understanding of the need to, first and foremost, have credible election. Understanding that if your leadership recruitment process is flawed, if you have a system that does not guarantee the true aspirations of the people, it will also reflect in the quality of governance that you eventually have. So many times we have focused attention on INEC, but we're not focusing commensurate attention on the politicians, their shenanigan. We are not focusing a lot of attention on the judiciary. We are not focusing a lot of attention on the party agents themselves. The INEC chairman just told us that the voter register has been dispatched to the 68 political parties. As we speak, we need to ask the question whether there has been any objection, whether any political party or even anyone has raised objections on the register that has been placed on them. So we do all have a role to play. And in playing that role, we need to take our own place in it and determine that we'll play that role very well.